That one thing that caught my attention today was the genealogy of Jesus. Right at the beginning, the bit that we normally skip past if we're honest, in Matthew 1 to 16, we find a genealogy. And in this genealogy, we notice a few women's names. But why is that important? But before we fly into that, we must remember this is the genealogy of Jesus. Let's put it another way. This would perhaps be the equivalent of the police pulling Jesus over and asking for his ID and registration. Matthew shows us that Jesus has all the documents to prove his credentials. Racially, Matthew proves him to be the seed of Abraham, and royally, Matthew proves him to be the son of David, so that the reader is in no doubt that this Jesus is the Messiah. He is the Saviour. He is Lord. But why? Why the inclusion of these women when we know that this is a male-saturated culture? Why even include these women in the genealogy? I believe Matthew's intention was to shock the Jewish reader. To shock the Jewish reader into a humility, to break that religious, self-righteous, elitist, male-dominated culture with a family tree of, let's just put it, rough diamonds, handpicked by God, including these women. In verse 3, we see Tamar, who is known for faking being a prostitute just to get pregnant. And in verse 5, we see another woman's name, Rahab, who was a prostitute. You might even recall she hid the spies in the days of Joshua. And also we see another woman's name in verse 5, and her name is Ruth. And Ruth wasn't even Jewish, she was actually a Moabite. Remember, Jews are into their racial purity, so this would shock the reader. And then in verse 6 we find an odd detail. It reads, David, who was the father of Solomon, whose mother had been Uriah's wife. Ouch. In other words, don't forget Bathsheba, the wife of Uriah, the lady that King David took advantage of and had her husband murdered. Yes, that David that we read about in Sunday school. And you thought your family tree was bad. Today's reading reminds us that whatever your genealogy, wherever you come from, whatever you have done, whatever your mess, whatever your religious persuasion, whatever your reputation, whatever your gender, there is a place for someone just like you, yes you, in God's family.